Have you ever wanted to know the optimal block dimensions for a side-by-side dual occupancy development site? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you the block dimensions you need to be looking out for when trying to identify your next site, and the ones to avoid. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss anything. Let's hop into it. When trying to identify your next dual lock site, having a clear understanding of the various site dimensions and how each will directly impact what you can achieve on the site is going to be critical. So if you don't have a handle on these dimensions and the kind of impact each can have on the footprint of your development and ultimately its bottom line, then you are already behind the 8 ball before you've even begun. Whether you already have the land or you are looking to buy land, understanding block dimensions will help you determine if the site is feasible and worth doing. Buying a site that won't allow you to achieve what you thought you could is the fastest way to lose money in the developing game. Once you commit to a site, there is no turning back, so you need to get this stuff right. The last thing you want is to be working on a development for however bloody long, knowing it's going to deliver a negative result. What a drainer. First up, let's talk about frontage, and by frontage I mean the width. For a side-by-side dual lock site, in most cases we are looking for a minimum of 12 metres of frontage, meaning each dwelling will be about 6 metres wide and built with a common wall down the middle. These dwellings are known as semi-detached. Now 6 metres in width may not sound like much, but I can assure you, if designed right, you'll be left with a whole lot of house. A 12 metre frontage also means that council will allow you to add another crossover. So you utilise the existing one and you add a new one. By you adding an additional crossover, it will mean 6 metres of your street frontage won't have street parking, but the remaining 6 will. Given council requires 6 metres to fit a car, that's perfect. Originally, your 12 metre site started with a 3 metre crossover, leaving 9 metres for on-street parking, which is enough for one car. When you add a second crossover, your frontage has gone from 9 metres to 6 metres. Again, only enough for one car. It means council's happy because you're not reducing the number of street car parks. And if council's happy, then we're happy. So now you know, in most cases, 12 metres of street frontage is the minimum required for a side-by-side dual lock development. The on-street parking is a big factor, but also any smaller than 6 metres per dwelling is getting a bit tricky to design something appealing. Now let's talk length, and by length I'm referring to the depth of your block. Once you get your frontage right and you know you have enough width, you need to make sure there is enough depth in the site. Firstly, your setback. Your site setback is the distance from the front boundary to the start of your dwelling. A block setback is governed by the setbacks of your direct neighbours on either side. It's an average of their setbacks. For example, let's say the setback of your neighbour on the left-hand side is 9 metres, and your neighbour on the right-hand side is 7 metres. It means your setback will be 8 metres. After you understand what your setback is, you then need to work out how long you need your dwellings to be to achieve enough accommodation on your development. As a general rule of thumb, if your building can be about 20 to 30 metres long, we are looking good. Now 20 to 30 metres long will result in a very appealing house that you should have no problem selling or living in yourself. We are talking 3 bedrooms, 2 living zones, 3 bathrooms per house. When identifying a site, you also need to be careful of blocks that are too deep. You will find yourself paying a premium for the extra land that will just end up in your backyard. Which sounds nice, but buyers are not going to pay you a premium in return for that extra space. Another important thing to understand is that regulations can be interpreted differently from council to council and in some cases planner to planner. So before you make any final decisions on a block, it's important you research what kind of approvals are getting through in your local area. Now with the width and depth ticking all the right boxes, one of the final things you need to consider is your backyard and the relevant restrictions you would need to adhere to. commonly known as private open space. This again can vary from council to council, so you need to roll up the sleeves and figure out what those minimum requirements are and make sure you allow for them. Once you have the required setback and open space for your block, the footprint you have to work with to build your house will become evident very quickly, which directly affects your end sale values and your feasibility. By now, you are starting to get really close to figuring out if it's a good site or not. Finally, as always, these are just a couple of the many non-negotiables you need to consider and understand before deciding if a site is feasible to develop. Whether that's an existing site you own or it's one you are looking to purchase, it doesn't matter. You need to know your numbers. Well, that's about it. Hopefully these simple to follow tips give you a much clearer understanding of the dimensions you need to consider when completing your due diligence on a side-by-side dual lock site. Happy developing. See you on the next one.